everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Together today we will go over the city of Tržič, which is located in the northern part of Slovenia, and it is important because its route continues through a mountain pass that borders the successor state, Austria. First we arrived at an important house, which is supposed to be Tito's villa, the former president of Yugoslavia, who we are. Even today, this house has a fairly well-kept garden, where we can see the abandoned remains of a high standard of rich people. This villa is in a very secluded location, and therefore we assume that it was used for rest, and that Tito had his own secret, quiet corner. Now we walk through the park, where we find at the beginning the abandoned old fish ponds. There is a tennis court next to the house, and a swimming pool is hidden under the house. The house is decorated with beautiful shutters on the windows and stands in a sunny location with a beautiful view over the city. Behind the swimming pool, we find a long path that leads to the town. To make the location even more magical, there is an old church with defensive walls next to it on the hill. This church is very old, and I think it could actually be from the time of the castle, which we will see a little later. On the house, we can also find the memorial plateau of Count Lamberg, and the old defensive walls around the church were used in Slovenia to protect the population from attacks by the Turks, in the distant past of the 15th and 16th centuries. Here we can see that the church stands on a hill with steep sides, which also contributed to a better defense. I think that ceremonies are held in this church from time to time, as it looks very well preserved. In the church, we can also find beautiful paintings from the olden times. Now we continue our walk down the path, over the paved road again into the forest on the macadam road up the hill, and after about 15 minutes of walking we arrive at a flat terrace from which we can see the remains of the walls of the Gutenberg castle from the right side above. But me and my friends can't walk on the road, but always have to turn into the forest, where it usually becomes always interesting. We also had a metal detector with us, so we soon set out to explore this mysterious location. First we stopped under the hill on which the castle stands. We tried to find something interesting with the metal detector, but we only dug up some junk, which of course we took with us. Then we came to the hill, on which we can see the remains of the walls of the old Gutenberg castle and some wooden structures, as restoration and maintenance work is said to take place here, and they even organize events from time to time. Gutenberg Castle was mentioned for the first time in history, in 1156. It was owned by Count Alberon of Gutenberg. Later, Duke Henrik of Carinthia gave it to Peter of Lamberg for formal residence and protection under castle feudal law. It is known that the last owner of the castle was Count Lamberg, who got the castle when he bought the town below the castle in 1444. In 1511, a strong earthquake struck the castle. After the earthquake, there was a lot of damage to the fort, but it was never repaired, and unfortunately the castle began to fall into pieces. When we walk around the castle, we can feel a special energy, and the remains of the walls can conjure up many things with a little imagination. The remains of the observation tower and the living room we can still see well today, and many other historical things. There are the remains of a wall, and behind the wall you will find a farm toilet if you need it. Please clean up after yourself, and the world will be a much better place. In this wonderful ambience of old walls, unfortunately, we also found some trash, which we picked up and threw into the trash can, which can also be found between the wooden constructions. Throughout history, the castle has been referred to as the Dark Castle, on which the first Count Ziga Lamberg is said to have been born. The legend tells about the cursed princess of the castle, who was the daughter of the king. She waited a long time for someone to save her. She got bored and started making animals out of dry branches. Take a good look around and you will discover many animals made of wood. Now we have already seen 3 interesting mysterious locations, and I have a feeling that the interesting is just beginning. We know that we are in a very historically rich location. I soon turned on my metal detector again and started researching and looking for some interesting objects. I tried to explore every nook and cranny, because we know that people used to hide a lot of things or bury. But I didn't have much luck here either. There were some strong signals, as you can see. But I have to disappoint you that it was just garbage again. And when you start to explore nature in this way, then you see how disrespectful we humans are to our beautiful nature. That's why I'm always happy to take things I find with me, even trash, and I hope that by doing this I can encourage a cleaner environment. When I explored this rocky area, we soon found something interesting again. At first glance I thought it might be the home of a fox, a wolf or a badger. But first I carefully looked into the cave, which at the beginning I did not expect such a large space, and it was clear that this cave can also be very interesting, because I could see that in the first room the ceiling was very black, and after that I assumed that this cave could have been used for the shelter of people in history. Since I went on the trip in winter, of course I immediately thought that some wild animal might be hiding. That's why I thought a little at the beginning if I would go inside. Soon I decided that for my birthday, nothing could stop me, and I went into the cave. When I set up the camera to record, I cleared the entrance to the cave a little, and already found the bones of an animal, a sign that this could only be the home of some wild animal. I have to admit that the entrance to the cave was very small. In the cave, I continued to notice many mosquitoes, spiders and grasshoppers. Fortunately, there were no larger animals. Of course, this cave was also very small inside, and even for those who are afraid of tight spaces, I do not suggest going inside the cave. When I first came to the cave, I noticed many small tunnels, but unfortunately they were so small that we couldn't go inside. Here we first looked where this cave continues, and soon we saw that there is no end to the tunnels. It goes on and on. At first, of course, I thought a little bit about moving on, because the rooms were smaller, and there was very little room for a person. But you can see here, despite a lot of thinking, I decided to go further into the tunnel soon. And here we can see that straight ahead the cave is very long. But we discovered that we have another cave tunnel on the right side. We went a little further into the right tunnel, but we soon saw that there was not enough space to continue through the tunnels. But maybe someday we will return to this mysterious cave and clean it and dig it up so that we can continue our exploration. We decided to go back to the first room and explore it carefully, and we noticed a lot of smaller tunnels. And soon we started to discover much more interesting things. At the beginning we found some bones, but since I'm not an archaeologist or a doctor, and I don't want to be too clever, I just think they were animal bones. I looked for all the bones that I could see with my eyes and gathered them together in one place, while I was thinking that I might find something interesting with a metal detector. I could only take a pointer metal detector into the cave because there was not enough space for a large metal detector. Soon I found the first signal, and I can easily say that it gave me a lot of motivation. I found around 500-year-old nail. Of course, this is not a rich find, but we know that it is one interesting historical object that we were looking for. Now we've had enough of this cave, and we're heading out slowly, but because we didn't turn off the pointer detector on the way back, and we didn't use it, it started making noises. This happens in case we forget it somewhere, and it starts beeping on its own, which can be very convenient when exploring around. We continued our adventure through the forest, where we were full of motivation. Some of us climbed while others explored the surrounding area with a detector. Now I got one strong signal again. And as you can see, I really want to dig up the hidden object, but we dug up the trash again. It was an old container, but of course I thought that maybe something could be hidden inside. It was just full of dirt. Some feeling told me that it wasn't over yet, and soon we encountered something interesting again. It was quite difficult to dig, but when I dug I saw what I found, a military machine gun. That's when I knew I had got my gift of history that we were looking for. This is what is left of the Italian machine gun, which was probably stolen from the partisans and transferred to this location, because, as we have already said, we are located in the Alps, which border Slovenia and Austria. And I don't see any other logic, but of course this is just my opinion that came to my mind. We can see that many parts of the rifle are also missing. It was definitely very exciting, and we'll see you on the next adventure.
He turned 35 last Sunday, and his hair is bouncing gray. But he still ain't changed his lifestyle. He likes it better the old way. So he grows a little garden in the backyard by the fence. He's consuming what he's growing nowadays in self-defense. He gets out there in the twilight zone sometimes when it just don't make no sense. He gets off on country music, cause disco left him cold. He's got young friends in a new way, but he's just too friggin'